Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at this video called Big Oxygen.
Oh,
It's from a YouTube channel called Exurb1a. Have you ever heard this one?
Yeah, I've seen a few of their videos.
Yeah. They're really interesting, and we're not going to be able to cover everything in this video, but we're going to be focusing on the ideas of truth, belief, and narrative.
Sounds good.
All right. So this video, it's presented as a sci-fi story.
Okay.
And it follows the crew of a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
But things get really strange really quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So, like, initially everything seems normal, but then you start to see these hints that something is off.
Like what?
Well, for example, at one point, a frozen corpse just, like, floats past a porthole.
Oh,
Yeah, and the crew, they just kind of shrug it off.
really?
Yeah, it's super weird. And then the academics on board, they start spouting these bizarre theories.
What kind of theories?
Oh, man. Like, they start saying that the stars are just projections or that they're tiny people living in the radio.
Oh,
Yeah, it's wild. And the whole atmosphere on the ship, it just becomes this, like, descent into chaos and absurdity.
it sounds like the video is using this kind of like over-the-top scenario
Yeah.
to make a point about reality.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's showing how fragile our understanding of the world really is.
Yeah.
You know what happens when the things we believe to be true are suddenly called into question?
Right, like what happens when our shared framework for understanding reality breaks down?
Exactly. And that's where this concept of logothesia comes in.
Logothesia.
It's an airborne nano agent
Okay.
that can essentially rewire people's beliefs.
Wow. That's a pretty intense concept.
It is. It really makes you think about how susceptible we are to manipulation. You know, like how easily our beliefs can be influenced or even completely overwritten.
Right. Like if something can just change what you believe to be true, does that mean that truth itself is subjective?
That's a great question. And it's one of this video really explores. So through this concept of logothesia, it introduces this idea of a narrative frame.
A narrative frame. What's that?
Well, it's basically the idea that our beliefs shape how we interpret the world. You know, like even if we're presented with the same facts, two people with different beliefs might see those facts in completely different ways.
So it's like a filter that colors how we see everything.
Exactly. And logothesia, it plays with this idea by showing how easily that filter can be changed.
I see. So it's not just about the facts themselves, but about the framework we use to understand those facts.
Right. And that framework, it can be incredibly powerful. It can shape our actions, our emotions, our entire worldview.
And if someone can control that framework, they can control a lot more.
Exactly. Which brings us to this really fascinating character in the video, the narrativist.
Okay, tell me about this narrativist.
So the narrativist is this person who has been genetically engineered to be immune to ideology.
Immune to ideology. So they don't have any beliefs of their own.
Right. They're supposed to be completely objective. But here's the catch. Their job is to shape the beliefs of everyone else on the ship.
So they're like a walking contradiction.
I know, right? It's like this huge paradox. They're this objective observer who is tasked with influencing the subjective beliefs of others.
It really makes you question whether true objectivity is even possible.
It does. You know, like,
Yeah.
Can anyone truly exist outside the influence of their own worldview?
It's a really interesting question. And it seems like this video is using the narrativist to explore that very question.
Absolutely. It's digging into these really deep philosophical questions about the nature of belief truth and the power of narrative. And it does it all within this really captivating sci-fi story.
It sounds like this video is packed with ideas.
It is. There's so much to unpack, and we're just getting started.
I'm ready to dive in.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
So the narrativist living space is described in the video, and it's fascinating. It's like this crazy mishmash of every ideology imaginable.
Really?
Yeah. It's described as this attempt to hold all beliefs simultaneously as a way of maintaining objectivity.
Wow. So like a library filled with books on every philosophy, religion, and political ideology.
Exactly. It's this chaotic jumble of ideas and beliefs.
I wonder if that's supposed to represent the narrativist's internal struggle.
Oh, you mean the struggle to remain objective while being surrounded by all these different ideologies?
Yeah, it's like, can you really be exposed to all these conflicting beliefs and not be influenced by any of them?
That's a great point. And the video seems to suggest that maybe you can't.
It makes me think about how even just being aware of different perspectives can change how you see the world.
Right. It's like the more you learn about different ways of thinking, the harder it becomes to hold on to any one belief system as the absolute truth.
And maybe that's part of what the video is trying to get at. You know, this idea that truth is complex and multifaceted and that there isn't always a single right answer.
Yeah. It's definitely challenging the idea of a singular objective truth.
So what happens to the narrativist?
Well, eventually they crack.
They do.
Yeah, they fall for this idea of a better reality,
Yeah.
a utopian vision that's presented to them. And they end up leading the ship on this doomed course into the boundless black.
Wow. So they succumb to the allure of belief just like everyone else.
Yeah, it's like this tragic downfall. This person who was supposed to be immune to ideology ends up being consumed by it.
And it highlights how seductive a compelling narrative can be, even if it's ultimately destructive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We all want to believe in something to find meaning and purpose in a chaotic world. But what happens when the narrative we cling to turns out to be a fabrication?
Right. Like, how do we balance our desire for meaning with the need to be critical of the stories we're told?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
And one that this video really forces us to grapple with.
Yeah. It doesn't offer any easy answers, but it does make us think about the responsibility we have as individuals to question the narratives that shape our lives.
And to be aware of the power that those narratives hold.
Exactly.
So the final moments of the video are really intense.
Oh, how so?
Well, the protagonists, they're battling the effects of the logothesia while simultaneously being drawn to this utopian narrative that's destroying them.
That sounds like a really difficult internal struggle.
It is. It's
Yeah.
like they're caught between these two opposing forces, the truth that they're being manipulated and this desire to believe in something better.
It's like they're being torn apart from the inside out.
Exactly. And it really highlights the tension between belief and reality.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile our desire for meaning with the potential for deception?
It's a question that I think we all wrestle with on some level.
Yeah, it's this universal human experience.
Yeah.
We want to believe in something, but we also need to be careful not to blindly accept everything we're told.
It's a delicate balance.
It is. And that's one of the things that makes this video so thought-provoking.
I can see that. It sounds like it really gets under your skin and makes you question your own beliefs.
It does. It's definitely one of those videos that stays with you long after you've watched it.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
You definitely should. It's a wild ride.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about belief and narrative, but what about truth?
Right. Well, the video doesn't really offer any definitive answers about what truth is.
Okay.
But it does suggest that truth is complex and multifaceted, and that it's often shaped by our beliefs and experiences.
So it's not necessarily about finding the one right answer.
Exactly. It's more about recognizing that there are multiple perspectives, and that each perspective can offer a different piece of the puzzle.
And that the search for truth is an ongoing process.
Right. It's not something you just arrive at and then you're done. It's something you have to constantly be engaging with, questioning, and reevaluating.
I like that. It's like truth is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
So how does this all relate back to us? Why should we care about these ideas of truth, belief, and narrative?
Well, I think these ideas are relevant to everyone because they shape how we understand the world and how we interact with each other.
Right, like our beliefs influence our actions, our relationships, our entire lives.
Exactly. And in a world where we're constantly bombarded with information, it's more important than ever to be critical of the narratives we're being presented with.
Yeah, we need to be able to discern fact from fiction, to identify bias, and to evaluate sources critically.
And to be willing to question our own beliefs.
Yeah.
To be open to the possibility that we might be wrong.
That can be a tough thing to do.
It can. But I think it's essential for personal growth and for creating a more just and equitable society.
Absolutely. Because if we're not willing to question our own beliefs, then we're just blindly following whatever narrative is presented to us.
And that can be really dangerous.
It can lead to all sorts of problems like intolerance, discrimination, and even violence.
So it's important to be aware of the power of narrative and to use that power responsibly.
I agree. We need to be mindful of the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we share with others.
Because those stories have the power to shape our reality.
That's a powerful thought.
It is. And it's something that I think we all need to be more conscious of.
So what's the takeaway here?
I think the biggest takeaway is that truth is complex and that belief is powerful. And that we need to be critical thinkers who are constantly questioning the narratives that shape our lives.
I like that. It's a call to action, to be more engaged, more aware, and more responsible with our beliefs.
Exactly.
I'm curious what happens next in the story.
Well, I don't want to spoil too much, but let's just say that things get even weirder.
Even weirder than a frozen corpse floating past a porthole.
Oh, yeah. Much weirder.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Okay. So as we continue to delve deeper into this video, I want to encourage you to keep these ideas in mind.
Okay.
The power of narrative, the fragility of belief, and the importance of critical thinking.
I will.
Because these ideas are essential for navigating the complexities of our world and for making sense of our own experiences.
That's true.
So let's continue our exploration of big oxygen and see where this journey takes us.
Okay.
I'm ready. All right, let's do it.
Sounds good. It's interesting how the video uses this kind of absurd humor to talk about these really serious ideas.
Yeah, it's like a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down.
Exactly. You know, it makes these philosophical concepts more accessible and engaging.
Right, because let's be honest, philosophy can be pretty dense and intimidating sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you're not familiar with the jargon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this video, it uses humor and storytelling to make these ideas relatable and even entertaining.
So what else happens in the story?
Well, at one point, the crew, they start disassembling all the medical equipment on the ship
Why do they do that?
because they become convinced that it's filled with tiny people.
Tiny people.
Yeah, it's like this mass delusion that takes over the entire ship.
Wow. It's like that scene in Gulliver's Travels where he's tied down by the Lilliputians.
Right, it's that same kind of like absurd imagery,
Yeah.
but with this really unsettling undertone.
Yeah, it's like the video is playing with our sense of scale and perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And is using that to explore the idea of how easily our perceptions can be distorted.
So what about this word Zobalon?
Oh yeah, Zabalon, that's another weird element that pops up in the story.
Okay.
It's this word that the crew keeps repeating over and over again.
But they don't explain what it means.
Nope, it's never explicitly defined. It's just this meaningless word that becomes this kind of like mantra for them.
I wonder if that's intentional.
I think it is. It seems like it's meant to represent the way that we can cling to words or ideas even when they don't have any real meaning.
Yeah, like how we can get caught up in dogma or ideology without really understanding what it is we're believing in.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point because it highlights the danger of blind faith.
Right, like how we can be so easily swayed by rhetoric or propaganda without stopping to question what we're being told.
And that's one of the things that I find so fascinating about this video. It's not just telling a story. It's making us think about the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we're told by others.
And how those stories can shape our reality.
Exactly. You know, they can influence our thoughts, our emotions, our actions, even our entire worldview.
So this video, it's not just a sci-fi story, it's a commentary on the human condition.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's using this fantastical setting to explore some really profound questions about truth belief and the power of narrative.
And it does it in a way that's both thought-provoking and entertaining.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those videos that gets you thinking long after you finished watching it.
I'm starting to see why you wanted to do a deep dive on this one.
Yeah, there's just so much to unpack here. You know, it's like this onion with layers upon layers of meaning.
And the more you peel back the layers, the more you realize how complex and intricate it really is.
Exactly. And I think that's part of what makes it so compelling. You know, it's not trying to give you all the answers. It's inviting you to ask your own questions and to come to your own conclusions.
I like that. It's empowering the viewer to think for themselves.
Right. And I think that's more important now than ever before. You know, in a world where we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides.
Yeah, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and to just accept whatever narrative is presented to us.
But this video, it's encouraging us to be more critical, to question everything, to think for ourselves.
And to be aware of the power that narratives hold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, narratives, they could be used for good or for evil.
They can inspire us to create a better world, or they can lead us down a path of destruction.
And it's up to us to decide which narratives we choose to believe in.
That's a powerful thought.
It is. And it's something that I think we all need to take to heart.
I agree. You know, it's not just about being aware of the narratives that are out there. It's about being intentional about the narratives that we choose to embrace.
Exactly. Because the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we tell others, they have the power to shape our reality.
That's a big responsibility.
It is. But it's also an incredible opportunity.
So how does the story end?
Well, the ending is really thought-provoking, but I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay.
I think it's something that you should experience for yourself.
All right, I'll have to watch the video.
You definitely should. It's worth a watch.
Okay, so what's the one big takeaway that you want our listeners to walk away with?
That's a tough one. There are so many great takeaways from this video, but I think if I had to choose just one, it would be this. Be critical of the narratives that you're being presented with.
Okay.
Don't just blindly accept what you're told. Question everything. Think for yourself, and be willing to change your mind when presented with new evidence.
I like that. It's a call to action to be more engaged, more aware, and more skeptical.
Exactly. Because in a world where information is power, The ability to think critically is more important than ever before.
I agree. It's the key to navigating the complexities of our world and to making informed decisions about our lives.
And it all starts with questioning the narratives that shape our reality.
That's a great point. And it's something that we can all do starting today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't require any special skills or knowledge. It's simply a matter of being curious, asking questions, and being open to new perspectives.
And it can be really empowering, to realize that you have the power to choose what you believe and to shape your own reality.
Exactly. So let's all make a commitment to be more critical thinkers, to question the narratives that we're being presented with, and to think for ourselves.
Me too.
And I think the world will be a better place for it.
So it sounds like this video, it really challenges our assumptions about reality.
It does.
Yeah.
It makes you question whether anything is truly objective or if everything is just a matter of perspective.
And that can be a pretty unsettling thought.
You can, but I think it's also a really important one, because it forces us to confront the limitations of our own knowledge and understanding.
Right. Like, we can't just assume that our way of seeing the world is the only way or even the right way.
Exactly. We need to be open to the possibility that there are other perspectives out there and that those perspectives might be just as valid as our own.
So it's like a call for humility.
I think so. It's a reminder that we don't have all the answers and that we need to be willing to learn from others.
And to be open to changing our minds.
Absolutely. One of the things that I really appreciate about this video is that it doesn't shy away from these big questions.
Right. It's not afraid to challenge our beliefs and to make us think about things in a new way.
And I think that's really important because it helps us to grow and to evolve as individuals.
Yeah. It's like it's pushing us to expand our consciousness.
Exactly. It's not just about entertainment. It's about enlightenment.
So what's the one lasting thought that you want our listeners to take away from this deep dive?
That's a great question. I think the biggest takeaway is that we need to be critical thinkers.
Okay.
We need to question everything and to be aware of the power of narrative.
That's good advice.
Because the stories that we tell ourselves and the stories that we're told by others, they have a profound impact on our lives.
So we need to be mindful of the narratives that we choose to believe in.
Exactly. Because those narratives, they shape our reality.
And that's a powerful thought.
It is. And it's something that I think we all need to take to heart.
Well said. I think this has been a really fascinating deep dive.
Me too. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in.
Yes. Thank you for listening.
We hope you enjoyed this exploration of big oxygen and that it gave you some food for thought.
And hopefully it inspired you to question the narratives that shape your own life.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those very ideas.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep. Keep questioning and keep seeking those nuggets of truth that help us make sense of this complex and ever-evolving world.
Well said.